Hi, this is Dave DeSimone in the Wine Cellar. Welcome to the September 2017 edition in the Wine Cellar, and thank you for tuning in here on KQV 1410 AM. Remember, you can always hear archive recordings of this show and others at kqv.com or on my website, daveswinecellar.com. I also have weekly blog posts at daveswinecellar.com, so please check that out. So grape harvesting and winemaking are, of course, in full force now in the Northern Hemisphere. I've noticed on social media some of my wine-growing friends from California, France, Italy, they've already harvested some white-skin grapes, and the red-skin grapes are ripe and following quickly behind. So lots of long hours, hard work, and joy, too, in the vineyards. And given all this excitement and activity, I'm especially happy to welcome into the wine cellar this evening a French wine grower who brings tremendous energy, passion, and intelligence, and last but not least, a real sense of fun to his chosen profession. So let's say hello to Matthieu Barret. Bonjour, bienvenue, Matthieu. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, good. I know you said you're busy there in Cornas, so thanks again for taking time, and I enjoyed visiting you last May, so I know you have a lot of work to do, a lot of irons in the fire, so let's get right down to it here. So your winery, Domaine du Coulet, is located in Cornas, near the Rhone River, just south of Lyon in France.
Yes.
And were you born in Cornas, Matthieu?
No, me, I'm born in south of France, close to Marseille. It's my grandfather's house. And property. I rent it to my family, and I build my cellar.
Okay.
With,
so your grandfather was the one who had the vineyards in Cornas, and you came up from Provence to Cornas, so that's a bit of a change of certainly the climate is different in Cornas from Provence, but I know you get back there, and we'll talk about some of the wines you make down in the south as well. But in terms of your training, did you train with your grandfather? Did you go to school for formation in Bourgogne? Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
I never worked with my grandfather because he's dead before my first vintage. But I go to school to Lycée Viticole de Beaune in Burgundy, and that's the first time I discovered the reality of the wine. So I'm lucky and unlucky, but lucky because we can create everything and not to be prisoner of all the story of wine. So you have the good and the bad things at the same time.
Right. I understand. In Burgundy, of course, they have the Pinot Noir, and you work with the Syrah in Cornas. But so after studying at the Lycée Viticole in Beaune, would you say that you had any mentors, any people who you studied to see what they were doing when you started your work there in Cornas with your family's vineyards?
No, really. I'm really interested in grape brewing, so I use biologic wine and biodynamic. So that's the way I began, and after I met a lot of biodynamic and biologic winemaker other than me. And I taste a lot of wine, and I think I create myself my own vision of what I want to drink and to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so and because in Cornas, I remember when I first visited there in the 1990s, before you started in your work, that is kind of a community that is kind of off by itself, very traditional. So.
Yes.
You came there and started your own pursuit, and you mentioned the biologique and the biodynamic. So was that something that was happening in Cornas at the time, or were you kind of a pioneer in bringing that to Cornas?
When I arrived in 97, there is quite maybe two or three winemakers in all North Rhone Valley in biologic wine. And in slopes there is maybe not. So I'm not sure, but maybe one or something like that. So I can use the nothing like no knowledge of my neighbor. Maybe at this period, biologic and biodynamics are not so understanding like today.
Right.
So I began by make wines, grapes, biodynamic. At this period, I have no really identity of wine, so I do like the other wines, traditional, and I evolve after more and more on purity and fine wines because of my taste of drinking.
So you were looking for a way to make wines from Cornas that fit with what you like to drink, and the traditional way you found was not the way. So is that one of the reasons you turned to the biologique and the biodynamic to try to make fruit that made wines that you liked?
I think my first vision would be to make wines with the grapes of the flavor of the soils, and I think biodynamic and biologic is the only method to do that. After what I involved, I can say the Cornas traditional wines are not good, but it's not. I think there is another way to make Cornas wines, and we have a granitic soil in Cornas who can express a very big minerality, very salty taste. Salty, excuse me, taste. So when I discovered it, I think that pushed me to go far away from the traditional way.
Right, because the traditional way, or as we call it, conventional winemaking in English, that's a way where you minimize your risks by applying chemicals in the vineyards, as opposed to what you do, as I understand it, the biologique and the biodynamique, where you do not apply synthetic chemicals, rather you apply natural preparations and work the land and let the vines themselves do a lot of the work. Is that? But you're taking more risk to do that in some ways. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have more risk, but at the end, the flavor of the grapes give us facilities to make great wines because they have more flavor, more spirit, and more more soft. We have in my opinion, there is more risk in chemicals because the wines, the grapes have a lack of flavor. So you need to be close to industrial method in your winemaking. And me, I would like to make close to natural wines, so without add in the ferment. And I think there is it's another way. I think it's not less or more risky. I think they need a little bit more experience.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And, that's quite new, so we need maybe to learn it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, that the conventional way has its own risks by using chemicals. Just because you get a crop doesn't mean you aren't taking risks. So that is interesting, Matthieu. And this is Dave DeSimone. I'm talking with Matthieu Barret in Cornas from Domaine du Coulet. So now, in terms of after you grow the fruit, you pick the fruit, I know that there's a big discussion in Burgundy and maybe in Cornas about whether to ferment with whole bunches and stems or to take the stems off. Do you mainly take the stems off? Is that correct when you ferment the fruit?
Yes, in the traditional method in Cornas is full grapes, maybe in the Burgundy way too, but now I look for purity and finest way of winemaking, and what I consider I don't name the stems of the of the grapes give to the wine very dry and vegetal
taste
flavor. So my idea is to go to the purity of the tannin of the skin, and to keep only these tannins to have a velvet and a sweet texture.
I got you. Okay, so that's your style. And I also noticed when I visited there that increasingly you're using what we call in English the egg-shaped concrete vats, the béton en oeuf, so to speak. Why do you use egg-shaped concrete vats? Is that again to get the purity of the fruit?
Yeah, the idea is when we talk, all my method is made on the same way, on the same direction. So for me, the oak barrels give dry tannins, give flavor, exogenous flavor. So the idea to go on concrete tank or neutral tank because we can use we will use the new
concrete,
terquite concrete, egg shapes or ovoid forms. And the idea is to look for a new style of aging and to have the fresher and the purity at the maximum to respect the original flavor of the grapes and not mask it by
wood.
The oak's flavor and the aging continent.
Right, I saw that too. You're not a big fan of bois neuf, the new wood. You do not use a lot of new wood. You use older barrels or foudre, I think, to age your wines again because you're aiming for the purity of the fruit. And I think when you try your wines, you certainly do succeed in doing that. So, all right. So this is Dave DeSimone. I'm talking with Matthieu Barret in Cornas in France, and we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of Matthieu's wines, specifically some of which, including his Côte de Rhône, which is available in Pennsylvania. So hang in there. We'll be right back in the Wine Cellar. Hi, this is Dave DeSimone in the Wine Cellar. If you enjoy listening to my Wine Cellar programs on KQV, then please check out my columns each Wednesday in the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and online at daveswinecellar.com. And for fun wine and travel-related photographs and tips and information on local wine dinners, check out my Instagram and Facebook pages. And remember, always enjoy and share a glass of wine each day with food and friends. Thanks for listening. Okay, hi, this is Dave DeSimone. Welcome back into the Wine Cellar. I'm talking with Matthieu Barret in Cornas, France, just south of Lyon. Beautiful area, lots of steep hillsides, and right near the Rhône River. So let's see, Matthieu. Let's talk about your wine. So you're in Cornas. I know you make a Crozes Hermitage, a Côte de Rhône. And would you say that in all of these wines that you're looking to reflect the place where the wines are grown, vin de terroir, the terroir of the Cornas, Crozes Hermitage, and Côte de Rhône? Is that a fair statement about your wines?
Yes, the idea is always to respect the grape. So each grape is all my wines are organic and biodynamic wines. So they have the flavor of the place, and we try to respect it even in the date of harvesting. In the aging we use, in the extraction, we look for the most to focus on the grapes flavor and to have each appellation have its own identity.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, I see that in trying the wine. So let's talk first about your wines from the northern Rhône near where you live. You have the Côte de Rhône. Is it called No Wines Land? It's kind of an area that's in between the more recognized areas. Is that 100%?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
No Wines Land, it's a village Côte du Rhône of Cornas. So in Cornas you have a Côte du Rhône zone, Côte du Rhône area and a Cornas area, Cornas appellation area. And this part of Côte du Rhône is on a limestone place. So it's a very special style. It's quite different from the Cornas of in granite. So we try to make it for explain the limestones give maybe more an explosion fruit, and granite they be more focused on minerality and verticality of the wine. So it's two styles quite different. So it's very interesting to have the both in the vineyards. Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned your Cornas, and I know three that I had the pleasure of trying. You had the Cornas Le Bille Noire, Cornas Brise Caillot, and then the Cornas Gore, I believe it's called. So each one of those comes from a slightly different composition of soil. Is that correct? Or maybe age of vines? Tell us a little bit about those Cornas wines,
in the Cornas area, my selections are made more in the minerality power. So Gore is really, for me, the granite expression at the top of the slopes. Pinot Noir is maybe a little bit more powerful than Gore, but powerful not in the power, really in power flavor, but in the solar expression, because it's a south part of the top slopes. And Brice-Cailloux represent all the vineyards, so the younger vines, the mid slopes. You have old vines too, but it's really the photograph of the vineyards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that in trying all of those, they all are very distinctive, and I thought that the profile of the Cornas Gore is quite stunning, let me say that, because that granite certainly does give power and verticality to the Syrah, and all that wonderful kind of, I call it sauvage. It's just the purity of that grape. There's nothing flabby about it. It's a very, very muscular wine. But plenty of pleasure. It's an interesting balance. Is that?
Yes, it's power and elegance at the same time, but it's really interesting because maybe the grape flavor are more focused on the the granite. Sometimes more in Syrah you have red fruit, things like that. And in this wine, it's really the granite flavor, very focused by the egg shapes, because there is no oak, nothing. So it's very natural aging inside, because we ferment and we age in egg shapes. So that focused more the minerality, and I think the style of this selection is very unique.
Is it? I agree with that. Is it difficult working in the granite, or is it a pleasure to do that? I know you must really enjoy getting up there at the end of the day. I know it's work. Every job is hard, but is that a pleasure for you to be in the vineyards?
Me, I love to be in the vineyards. That's the way I arrive in these activities, because at first I prefer to be in the vineyards than in the cellar. Now I'm older, so I like to be in the cellar too, and that's the reason we change the wine in the year after year, because I begin to understand all the things we can do by the selection, by the aging, by the idea we can create who focused on some part of the vineyard, but I think all winemakers prefer to be in the vines than everywhere.
Yeah. How many people do you have working? I know during the harvest you have a larger group, but around the year, do you have people who are salariés who work with you full time?
Well, we are eight. My salary are 6, and we have 1 or 2
part-time.
Not every year, but most of the year.
And how many hectares in total in your domain, please? Not including.
We plant 2 hectares more, so we are at 18 hectares.
18 hectares. Okay, so good. So that gives an idea of the domain. So another very exciting area, and I mentioned here in Pennsylvania, you have the Côte de Rhône, Le Petit Ours, the little bear, and I know you make a Crozes Hermitage as well as a Côte de Rhône. Tell us a little bit about that, because these are wines, I think you buy the fruit, but you work with growers who work biologique. Is that correct?
Exactly. A few years ago, I decided to work with few friends, and I create a second brand with the bear, the small bear, the teddy bear in the logo, and we decided to do the same job we do with the vineyards, but with a different area. So we use from Côte du Rhône from the south, close to Visan area, and Crozes Hermitage with our friends. We share. with my friends, we share. I give him some Cornas, give him some Crozes, and we do wines. So it's like a small game.
Yeah, a collaboration, right? Exactly. And are the grapes for the Crozes Hermitage from the area near the plain? Is that where the grapes come from, or are they from on the hilltops and in the granite? What's the terroir like for the Crozes Hermitage?
The Crozes Hermitage and Petit Ours are from Drôme, the part of France. Drôme is just the other side of the Rhône River, and it's more limestones with river stone. So it's and in the back at 1 meter you have a small piece. I don't know the name. It's gravier in France. Mm-hmm. It's a small in French. It's a small stones.
Right.
So it's a very particular terroir. So I think Crozes Hermitage is a kind of Syrah, but more floral, maybe more juicy than the slopes granite from Saint Joseph, Cornas, Hermitage, even Côte-Rôtie.
Right. Yeah.
It's really the more juicy Syrah from the north from Valley.
Yeah. Vin Gourmand. Very.
Vin Gourmand, exactly.
Yeah, juicy.
That's what we do for gourmandise.
Yeah, gourmandise. Yeah, and I mean it's good to have variety of choices, and I like that about a good Crozes Hermitage can create very good value. Some of them can be a little too flabby and not focused, but your wine, which I tried, the Petit Ours Crozes Hermitage, is juicy, gourmand, but yet has good structure. And then the wine from Vizon, which I believe is 100% Syrah, but that is made from the southern Rhône in a very much warmer climate. But I know you have a colleague there who provides the fruit. That's a very popular.
The Vizon, the idea is really the Mourvèdre because we use a lot of Mourvèdre inside, and it's very quite different from all my wines. And I'm very because I am from the south of France. Maybe you know Bandol. Bandol is my when I was young, it was the place I go to holiday. And Mourvèdre is a little bit something I would like to do. And my friend with I work for Petit Ours selection have a very good Mourvèdre, so I decide to do it. And it's very fresh. It's at the Nordic place for this variety.
Yeah, it's Vizon is definitely the northern part of the southern Rhône, if that makes sense. So that is a blend of Syrah and Mourvèdre. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes.
And I think that certainly is brilliant. I know that when people see that label with the little silver bear on there, you're meeting them halfway. What's that? What's that?
The disco bear.
Yeah. I mean, he's dancing, he's happy, and yet the wine inside is I'm going to say, it's obviously organic wine, and it's a well-made wine. So kudos on that. That's a brilliant piece of marketing, but really good quality, and it's nice to see the two together. And by the way, the price is very good too. So that helps. So now
that's the idea of this brand is to make wines because my vineyard, my domaine du Coulé, is high level wines, and I really want to make wines for my friends and to have the quality of biologic, biodynamic, not so much sulfite, and at the same time elegant and fresh wine. So that's really the idea of this bear who gives the pleasure to a wine consumer.
Yeah, it's smart, and so that's good. So now we have a couple of minutes left, and in terms of looking to the future, I know you have your hands full right now in terms of the 2017 vintage, but looking down the road a little bit, do you see expanding? What do you see for Matthieu Barret and your domain going forward here in terms of some projects maybe that you're working on now, please?
The next this year we have 3 new selections arrive. We have IGT Ardèche. It's wine from Ardèche, from the southern, from Cornas, but in the same side river. Very interesting with friends who begin in biologic wines.
Okay.
With Sauvignon and Chardonnay, and we have a little bit Syrah another selection. So it's interesting to see it's more on limestones but southern. So maybe I would try to carbonic weight, maybe, or for grapes, I don't know, to change. The idea is to experiment, and we'll see. And after on the vineyard, I have a new selection. I planted a few years ago the Durza. Durza is the father of the Syrah. It's a very old variety. And I don't know what the taste of this variety because there is very few.
Could you repeat that, please? What's the name of that variety again? It's called
Durza.
Durza.
Ureza.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. Yeah, that's something new, a little bit something.
And that would be it's new and very old because they create the Syrah with a blend with these varieties and Mondeuse Blanche. And that's the reason I want to save this variety because there is only a few, maybe less than 1 hectare in the world, and we plant half an hectare to save the variety. And after I don't know what we do with this, but
may have to drink it yourself.
We'll see, but I think that could be good.
Yeah, I hear you. You have to try. If you don't try, you're not going to do it. And
yeah, I think I need a few years to find the right way to this variety. But I think it's a very interesting project. There is all variety are things I want to plant maybe all white variety in the next year. It's for that is more for fun than for my own pleasure.
I got you. Well,
I can share.
I like your attitude. You have the right attitude. Sharing, pleasure, and trying to discover new things. So our time has flown by here, Matthieu. So I want to thank you again. We've been talking with Matthieu Barret from Domaine du Coulet and Petit Ours in Cornas. So thanks for taking time, and I hope you don't have too many problems. You probably have some challenges here, but enjoy the vendage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to our listeners, hang in there. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Dave DeSimone in the Wine Cellar. If you enjoy listening to my Wine Cellar programs on KQV, then please check out my columns each Wednesday in the Pittsburgh Tribune Review and online at daveswinecellar.com. And for fun wine and travel-related photographs and tips and information on local wine dinners, check out my Instagram and Facebook pages. And remember, always enjoy and share a glass of wine each day with food and friends. Thanks for listening. Hi, this is Dave DeSimone. Welcome back into the Wine Cellar. Thank you again to Matthieu Barret from Domaine du Coulet in Cornas, France, for joining us in this busy part of the harvest season. Check out his wines, including Le Petit Ours. And thank you for tuning in this evening and listening to the Wine Cellar. Remember, you can catch archives of the Wine Cellar at kqv.com or at my website, daveswinecellar.com. Please check it out for my blog posts as well. And until next time in the Wine Cellar, this is Dave DeSimone saying good night.